What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Chef, and we are back. You already know what time it is. It is time for episode number 53 of the YAK pod. Now, we got a few things to get into. Well, really one thing, and I'm pretty sure everyone has seen it because, you know, it's the off season, and anything that anybody does is going to get some traction. But before we go ahead and get into that, we got some business to handle. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and subscribe, hit that little button down there, smash the like button, smash it, obliterate the like button, turn on your notifications, and do everything that you can to share. Because you got to be that type of friend that tells another friend. And when you are that type of friend that tells another friend, the algorithm looks favorably upon that. And if you're enjoying this content, you want the algorithm to look favorably upon the things that you do so that it will look favorably upon me. Now let's go ahead and get to it. Jared Goff was on the Wilbo Sports Cards podcast. If you want to go see the whole interview or the whole podcast episode, again, the Wilbo Trading Card podcast. I am sorry. Go ahead and check it out. But he said something interesting in response to a question about, if you guys remember, I think it was Bob Wojnarowski. What is his name? I don't want to butcher it. Hold on, let me get his name. Let's see. His name is Bob Wojnarowski. Sorry. Bob Wojnarowski, when he was talking about how the San Francisco 49ers had good players that were probably better known to the national audience than the Detroit Lions, and how the San Francisco 49ers had a bunch of all-pros and the Detroit Lions, well, whatever they had on their roster. And I think we all remember how basically he said that the Lions have some good players. Jared Goff was like, okay, thank you. And then he was like, but not as many as the 49ers or something like that. And Jared Goff was like, all right, never mind that. So in response to that situation, when it was brought up on the podcast, Jared Goff had this to say. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
I have this, I probably need to drop it pretty soon here because I'm going to hopefully be in Detroit for a long time. But I have this thing with our local media where they almost relish in negativity at times. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what gets clicks and that's what sells, but it's no longer what they need to live in. Right. Hey guys, we have a good team, we've had success, we can be happy about that, we can celebrate that and not have to write about how we're constantly the underdog. No, teams are going to be gunning them for us now. We won the division and all that, and I'm probably overthinking it in my head just because it's the chip on my shoulder and the competitor in me. But in that moment, I was just giving that guy a hard time. I actually really like him, but
I think that's great.
All right, so you see what Jared Goff had to say about that, and I think in some cases Jared Goff is spot on. He's talking about the negativity of the local media. Basically the thing that I went to right away was the whole SOL narrative, and we talked about this before, how the fans particularly, and this comes out in the media at times, basically we want something to be negative about. And there's an old saying that misery loves company, but the thing is, yes, we've been miserable for many years, but we are no longer miserable. And we don't need any more company. We don't need company being miserable. I mean, let's have some company being great. As he said, we won the division. Teams are going to be gunning for us. This is no longer the lovable Lions and everything is a cute story, as Brad Holmes said. We are building something to sustain into the future. And because we are doing that, pretty much anybody that's on that train needs to hop off. The negativity train. We need to hop off. No one is hoping, and I don't think but I could be wrong. No one is hoping that this team regresses next season. We're hoping that the team gets better. We're hoping that the moves that are being made, the signing of DJ Reader, Kevin Zeitler, so on and so forth, Amik Robertson, Carlton Davis, all these people that we have signed in free agency, bringing Graham Glasgow back, being in a position that we can pretty much go anywhere that we want at pick number 29. We can stay there. We can draft who we want. We can move up. We can move back. We know that Brad Holmes cooks that way. That is that down Holmes cooking that we talk about with Brad Holmes. So really, this Lions team, just as they said in the playoffs, just as Jared Goff said in the playoffs, I remember I had a post and I was asking people how they felt about that when Jared Goff said that, yes, we understand what it means, but no, we do not hold the weight. We do not carry the weight of the last 30 years. When talking about winning the first playoff game or winning the division, we don't carry the weight of the last 30 years of this franchise. And to a point, he was correct. To a point, he was incorrect. To the point that he was correct was reality. To the point he was incorrect was fan perception, right? The fan perception is the issue, because we've been here for the last 30 years, many of us. Some of us have not been. Some of us weren't alive, right? Some of us are younger and newer fans. But the ones that have been alive through it all, who saw the Barry Sanders era, which was a greatly underachieving era. And it wasn't Barry's fault. And again, if you've watched this podcast, you know that Barry Sanders is my football dad. He is the reason that I got into football. He's the person that I wanted to be. He's the one that I wanted to play like. All of these things. So it's not his fault. It wasn't his fault. It was more so the organization's fault. So what has happened with that organization is that there have not been any changes. Oh, what am I talking about? Yes, there have been. There have been changes. This regime that we currently are dealing with, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Sheila Ford Hamp, Chris Spielman, Mike Disner, and the list goes on, is a competent regime. It is a competent regime. And given the opportunity to show us that they are competent, they have showed us that they are competent. So we need to give them a little bit more leeway. Fans are critical. The media, in some parts, there are certain media members who are super negative. And then there are certain media members who are super positive. And then there are certain media members who are in between. And obviously, Jared Goff was talking about the people that are super negative. He obviously wasn't talking about the people that are super positive. And then the even-keeled people, probably wasn't talking about them either. All right, so there's a certain section of the media and there's a certain section of the fan base that we could say that these comments were pointing to. And that section of the fan base is like, okay, we need to have someone or something to complain about. J-Mo still has his haters. You post a picture of J-Mo at the Red Wings game wearing a Red Wings jersey with the big smile on his face, being a man of the people, out and about, and he's still gonna have his haters. Oh, this is Droppy McButterfingers or Droppy McBust or whatever the case, whatever they want to call him. It's wild to me. It's wild. He's a player on a football team, which is good, and his improvement helped us win games. His improvement helped us get out to that early lead against the 49ers when he took that jet sweep to the house. He's a weapon on this team that you should want to flourish, that you should want to succeed, that you should want to see continue his development. I don't know why you would hate on him. Their talent is definitely there. We've seen him improve his hands. We've seen the dude work. Right? Is his work ethic as strong as Amon-Ra St. Brown's work ethic? Maybe slightly less strong. But I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown has an insane work ethic. If we talk about on sheer talent, sheer athleticism, well, Jameson Williams has more of it than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Hard work beats talent when talent won't work hard. Amon-Ra St. Brown is extremely talented. So is Jameson Williams. And they both are hard workers. For Jameson Williams to go through the things that he has gone through, to come out on the other side where Dan Campbell is speaking so glowingly of his opportunity to become the number 2 wide receiver on the team behind one Amon-Ra St. Brown, shows you that just right there. In one season, in one not even full season, because he hasn't had a full season yet, right? This hopefully will be his first full season in 3 years. Injury, okay, then suspension, which was longer than it was supposed to be because then it got lessened, but it got lessened after he had gone past what they, so they lessened it to a 2-game suspension after 4 games of him being suspended. Now, I don't know. You tell me what that's about. I don't know what it's about. But, okay, so there was that, and then he had to get himself acclimated into the offense. He had to get his timing down with Jared Goff. There were ups and downs. There were drops. There were big plays. But the development is there. And for anyone in the fan base to be actively preying on this man's downfall, you're just an SOL fan. You're an SOL fan. And this media that he's talking about, this is the SOL media. Again, this regime that we currently have is not the regime of Quinn Trisha. It is not the Martin Mayhew regime, which really wasn't that bad. I mean, we had that 2014 team that it looked like they could have gone all the way, but we just couldn't get over that winning a playoff game thing. Had Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford, Ndamukong Suh, Nick Fairley, Glover Quinn, Diggs. Like, we had a stacked roster, and that was the closest thing that we've had to something like what we have now. We have a draft guru as our general manager. We have a head coach who people want to go through walls to play for, who love this man. He has the pulse of his locker room. Everyone is fighting for each other, playing for each other. The culture, the grit culture that they have instilled in this team, in this roster, in this franchise, right? Grit is in the front office. Grit is on the field. Grit is everywhere. That's why it's all grit. Hashtag all grit. So, yes, it can be celebrated what we did. No, the job is not finished. But the job can be unfinished, and we can also appreciate what this team has done. This team has galvanized the city. The city has galvanized the team. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? One is not happening without the other. The team is not going to fight through the adversity. They're not going to find that extra oomph without the support of the city. And then the city is not going to support wholeheartedly without that team being willing to play for them and to represent them. So again, it's a symbiotic relationship. Like, they both need each other. And as Jared Goff said, hopefully he's going to be in Detroit for a long time, and he'll have to get over that situation where he feels that the media is a bit negative. And hopefully whoever is in the media that is a bit negative will be able to get over the fact that this team is no longer what they used to be. This organization is no longer what it used to be. There is no incompetence. There is no bumbling. We're not seeing any of that. This is not the Quinn Trisha era where our GM comes out about how he's watched more tape on Tease Tabor than anyone, and he drafts a cornerback who ran like a 4.8 40. It wasn't a 4.8, it was a 4.6. But still, you know, when people asked him about the pick, he just had to be the smartest guy in the room, explaining how he had watched so much film on Tease Tabor. He has watched so much film on Tease Tabor to the point where he hasn't been sniffed for a GM job. That's what we have to understand. That guy has never sniffed a GM job. No one with any sense, knowledge of football, knowledge of business is going to bring that guy in as a GM. Now, if he gets another GM job, he has pictures. That's all I'm saying. He's got some pictures of somebody doing something that they don't want to get out. Because if you hire Bob Quinn as your general manager, you are going to set your franchise back at least 15 years. At least 15 years. Now, the roster that we had when Brad Campbell, yes, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, Brad Campbell, when Brad Campbell came on the scene, was not a professional football roster. And in 3 years, they took a non-professional football roster to an NFC championship game where we were minutes away. We were minutes away from a Super Bowl. So, again, Jared Goff is right. Jared Goff is spot on. We need to remove the negativity from the media, from the fans. I'm not happy to be right about a player busting or a player not being good. I'm happy when players are good. I'm happy when players can help teams. I'm not gonna say I told you so, this guy sucks, blah, 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 because Brad Holmes isn't necessarily drafting those kinds of guys. I mean, he's gonna have some misses. But if you're batting 800, what can we say? If you're batting 800, if your batting average is 800, I'm cool with that. Yeah, I mean, you want a GM to be batting 500, but this guy is batting like 800, maybe even 900. He's not going to bat 1,000. And we shouldn't expect anybody to bat 1,000 because perfection is not possible. Just ask the Patriots. Just ask the Patriots when they were one game away from perfection and they lost it. But that is all the time we have for today. As always, if you did not subscribe on the way in, subscribe on the way out. If you did not share on the way in, share on the way out. If you did not smash the like button on the way in, smash the like button on the way out. And speaking of out, after letting you know that we are here Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, we will be out. Until next time, peace.